Okay, yesterday we saw the Shita of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broika. Rabbi Yochanan ben Broika, he said that usually when a person goes ahead and says so and so should be Yerush and not so and so, you're mastal mashakasa b'Torah because there's a pecking order to Yerusha, son, daughter, father, brother, uncle. We had an exact pecking order that we learned from a pasuk. Rabbi Yochanan ben Broika said a statement that could be translated one of two ways. He said that as long as you say someone's royally yarshai, right, then that you would not be masla mashakasa b'Torah. And he learned it from the lashon of biyom v'haya biyom and chilu esbanav. It'll be the day when you bequeath to your child. When the Torah opted to use the lashon the day of bequeathing to the child rather than the day the child inherits. So we see that it's much dependent on the giver, that the giver has a power. Now, what does that power extend to? Does it extend to any Yerush at any time, or only Yorshim at a certain time? Meaning, if your son is there to inherit, could you go ahead and jump the son and give it to a daughter? After all, she's royally Yarsha. Or no, it means when someone right now is royally Yarsha, not someone who's in the parsha of Yerusha, like a daughter vis-a-vis a son, like an uncle vis-a-vis a father, or vice versa, right? Can you go ahead and, or excuse me, just pick a son? In other words, I have 5 sons. I can give everything to one son. If there's no sons, I have 5 daughters. I can give everything to one daughter. So is that the way you learn? In fact, that's the shyness we had in the Gemara yesterday. And in fact, we paskined like one lashon, and Taisus and Rashbam both pointed out it's the lashon that he can pick a son among sons, he could pick a daughter among daughters, but he can't go ahead and have a daughter inherit when there is a son. He can't have a father inherit where there's a daughter, right? That's what we described yesterday. Now, the whole parsha of Yochanan Broka was stated biyom shen chilu es banav. When does a person go ahead and give to his children? When he's going to die. In other words, we're not speaking about people who have estate planning and writing plans. Al pi pashtus, when a person's ready to die, that at that point in time, they begin to go ahead and begin to do such a thing. Since Rabbi Yochanan Broka's source is biyom shen chilu es banav, it's obviously speaking by a shchif meirah, someone holding by death. What about a person who's totally healthy? What about a person who is estate planning? What about a person who's healthy? Would Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka say his din over there or not? That's the shiloh that we're approaching. So let's see it inside, and we'll see a little bit. Okay, we're up to Kuflav and Aleph Amid Aleph. 2 lines from the top. Boy Rava, did Bari Hayach? What's the din by a Bari? What's the din by a Bari? If you would say that I want this son to inherit, I want this son to inherit everything, even though he has other sons. What would the din be? Ki kama Rabbi Yochanan Broika. When does Rabbi Yochanan Broika say his din? That's b'shriv meirah. That's someone who's holding by death. The bar araisahu, says Rashbam, guys bar arusehu roy lahoirish miyad. He's roy to bequeath right away. Shahelach lamos. He's going to die. The karinam bay, and therefore we apply the pasuk biyom henchilu es banav. Again, remember, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka needed a pasuk because or else it would have been masla mashakasa b'Torah. He needed the support of the Torah to override the din of Yerusha, or else it would have been masla mashakasa b'Torah, giving to one son versus another son. If he's empowered by that pasuk, apparently that pasuk is only speaking on a day when he is physically being involved in bequeathing, which is usually what? When he's holding by death. So if that's the case, that he's empowered by that pasuk, and that pasuk is mashma only when he's dying, what would the din be by bari, by a healthy person? What would the din be by a healthy person? Avol b'bari loy, idilma afil b'bari nami, or even what? Afil b'bari nami. Okay, we're going to have a conversation between Rebbe and Rebbe Reb Nassan Habavli regarding kesubas banim dichrin. Yeah, one of the things that is prone for people to forget is kesubas banim dichrin. I don't know, for some reason, there's certain things you hear many times, but you don't want the Rebbeinu Shalom asking you what it is. But if you listen today, you may not have a problem. Here it is. Kesubas banim dichrin. We want to, your daughter's getting married. you want to give your daughter a nice dowry. You want to give her a nice property to go into the marriage, right? And why not? If you want to marry your daughter, well, you might be a little hesitant. I'll tell you why. Because if your daughter goes ahead, Leolenu, and leaves this world after having left 2 children in this world, and her husband has another wife, which he could have, and he has 2 sons from the other wife, Nimsa, when her husband dies, after she died, that the possessions that she brought into the marriage are now being equally divided among your grandchildren and somebody else's grandchildren. So you might not be so incentivized to go ahead and give it large dowry because your chances are you might lose it. After all, a man is allowed to have 2 wives, particularly even if he's not allowed to have 2 wives. If his wife dies, which our concern is, he certainly will remarry, especially if he has young children. And then if he remarries and has children with the other wife, so if he dies, your 2 grandsons are going to divide the estate over here. So a person will not be so prone to going ahead and giving a ksuba, a nice need, a nice dowry. Common terms. So you know what the Chachamim did? They made a condition. They said the following: you write in the ksuba bonim dichrin. Bonim dichrin, those male children that you had from me, they will inherit more than the other brothers. They will inherit more than the other brothers. Of course, what are they going to inherit? They're going to inherit what? The nechasim of what the dead mother brought into marriage. These 2 sons from the other wife will not inherit it, right? Now, guys, isn't this a classic Yochanan and Broka case? You have a case of Yerusha. He died, the father. 2 sons from this marriage, 2 sons from this marriage. Vis-a-vis the father's estate, it's all one estate, and he's giving one over the other. Right? That's Rabbi Yochanan Broka's case, where you're giving one over the other, and yet you can see you can do it. So with that understanding, now we're going to have a conversation between Rabbi Nassan Abavli and Rabbi. Now, Rabbi had already paskened the halacha like Rabbi Yochanan Broka, so I'm not exactly sure, I didn't see why Rabbi felt inclined to have to answer Rabbi Nassan. Rabbi Nassan is going to be attacking Rabbi that you're passing like the Yachid versus the Rabbim, because the Chachamim disagree with Rabbi Yochanan Broka. And Rebbe has to go ahead and say, no, this Mishnah can come out according to everybody. Okay? So I don't know why Rebbe felt inclined. I guess he wants to answer Reb Nassan's taina, that it doesn't have to be Rabbi Yochanan Broka. But Rebbe himself, in fact, learned that the halach is like Rabbi Yochanan Broka. Let's see the brisa, and you'll begin to understand what I'm talking about. It's a Mishnah. Amalei Mershashi L'Rava, Toshma. I'm coming to answer your shaila. What's your shaila? Does the din of Rabbi Yochanan Broka apply by a bari, by a healthy person, right? Not only by a shchiv meira or biyom shel chiles banav, but even by a healthy person. Tashma. The Amalei Rebbe Nassan Rebbe. Reb Nassan said to Rebbe, Shinamtem Mishnat Naschem, you learned your Mishnah, Rabbi Yochanan and Broka. You learned your Mishnah of Ksubas Banim Dichrin, like what? Like Rabbi Yochanan and Broka. Ditnan. If like kosav law, if you did not write in the ksuba, bonin dicharim, male children, do you have a lechi minoi that you will have from me? Inun yarsen, keyword being yarsen, they will inherit kesef ksuba sayich, the kesef of the ksuba, yoiser al chulkeim the im achayon, more than the chelik with their brothers. So if you didn't write it, chayev you chayev to write it. In other words, it's just a matter of protocol. It's as if it's written. Bezdin in invisible ink wrote in this ksuba, this din of ksuba's banim dichem. That was there tonight. But what does it say? They will inherit more than their brothers. The lashon of yarsin. Who is the only one who says what? You can inherit using the lashon of inheritance, one brother over another brother. It's Rabbi Yochanan and Broka. That's exactly the case. You have brothers from one marriage, right? From one mother, inheriting with brothers from another mother. However, inheritance goes after the father. Father dies. These children from the other mother are taking more than what? Than the other brothers. They're taking more than the other brothers. And it's working Mitaris Yerusha. Well, the only one who says that it works Mitaris Yerusha is Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. So says Reb Nassan to Rebbe, how could you pass it like that? How can you pass like Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka? Now, what's the Aleph in the Bach? Shehutai Bezdin, v'amaloi, Rebbe said Rebbe to Rebbe. Now, what does Rebbe want to do, guys? What's Rebbe's? Rebbe wants to say the Mishnah of Banim Dichrin is even according to the Chachamim, correct? The Mishnah of Banim Dichrin is even according to Chachamim. Because Rebbe said, don't learn Yarsin, learn Yasvin. They will take. Guys, they will take is a lashon of matana. Not Yarsun, they will inherit, but Yasvun, they will take. So now, we saw the Mishnah on Daf Kuf Chavav. What happens if a father gives a matana to one son over another son? Everyone's in agreement, right? Again, the din of Yochanan ben Broka is limited to Yerusha. Once you're using the lashon of matana, you're not limited to Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. Everyone would hold in that case what? One can go ahead and favor one over the other. So if in the Ksuba Banim Dichrin you don't write the lashon Yarsun, but rather Yasvun, then it would be a Kuli Alma, not only according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. So Rebbe has gone ahead and assuaged the Reb Noson's attack. Okay? He said it's attack. So no. So now Ksubas Banim Dichrin is according to everybody. Okay, guys, outside, what difference would there be if, forget Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, what difference would there be mechanically if you receive something as a matana or something as a Yerusha? If the father gives it as a matana, he's getting it now. It's his right now. He owns it. If the father gives it a Yerusha, it's only after the father's death. It's only after the father's death. So now, if you own it now and your father sells it, then after the father's death, you would be able to collect it from the people who bought it because there was a shibud on this land. If, however, a person bought it while the father was alive and then died, you would not be able to collect from it. In other words, if you can collect Kesubas Banim Dichrin from Mishubadim, then it's a raya that it was a matana. If, however, you cannot collect Kesubas Banim Dichrin from Mishubadim, then it's a raya, it was Yerusha. Because when he sold it, he was still alive. So he can't be moirish to something that's no longer in his possession. So right now we're holding, it's a gift. That you receive it as a gift because the lashon changed the lashon of Yarsun to Yasvun. Now, if that's the case, you should be able to collect Mishubadim, and you can't. Yasvun Tan. The Amar Rebbe says Rebbe, Yaldus, I was a child. B. V'azati panai b'nasan abavli. I was a child and I answered him foolishly. In other words, Rebbe is being maida, this thing that he said of Yasvun is not going to hold water, and he gave a poor teretz to the challenge of Reb Nosson Abavli. Again, Reb Nosson Abavli is challenging Rebbe that his Mishnah of Ksubas Banim Dichrim is only according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. Rebbe is countering, no, it's according to everybody, because it's lashon of matana, and now he's going to prove it's not a lashon of matana. Ella de kaimelon Banim Dichrim leitarfim mishabdi. If the father had sold the property, they wouldn't go ahead and collect from it. And if you're telling me that it's not Yarsun, but it's Yasvun, that it was a gift, why doesn't he go ahead and collect from Mishubadim? After all, it was his when the father sold it. There was a lien on it. El Shmamina Yarsun Tanan. Shmamina Yarsun Tanan. Okay? So therefore, Rebbe's commenting that I didn't give a good teretz, that it can't be Yasvun, and therefore right now it's according, you're right, it can only be according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka and not the Chacham. Now, don't lose sight. We brought this Mishnah in, this dialogue, to answer a kasha. What's the kasha? Did Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka say his din only by Yerusha, but even by what? Even by a bari. Man sham le de islay hay svara. Who is the one who says this svara that Yarsun, that only Yerusha you choose one over the other, and therefore you're not going to collect Mishubadim because you only get it after death? It's Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. Now, who's writing this, guys? Who's writing this? A guy before he's married. He's not writing at the time of his death. He's writing at the time of his marriage. Shma mina afila bibari. Shma mina, we can be poishir ashayla afila bibari. In other words, we've answered the Shaila and Rava that you want to know if Rabbi Yochanan Broicha is only by what? By Shriv Meirah? No. We see from the fact that Bon and Dichrin uses the Lashon of Yarson, and how we know we use the Lashon of Yarson because you do not collect from Mishubadim. And who's the one who says, oh, only be Yerusha, you can choose one or the other? It's Yochanan Broicha. And since he's doing it b'shas, he's getting married, obviously he's a bari, and I've answered the Shaila. Okay? I mean, guys, we're good. We answered the Shaila. The Gemara now is going back to the dialogue between Rebbe and Reb Nassim. Good? Reb Nassim challenged Rebbe. Obviously, your Mishnah that you learned in Ksubis is going according to Yochanan Broicha. You said, because it says Yarson. Says Rebbe, no, it's Yasvun. Rebbe agreed that what? Now, it can't be Yasvun because you don't collect Mishubadim. Good? Now the Gemara is going to go ahead and challenge part of that dialogue. Guys, you with me so far? It's a little, now it gets a little cheshbon dik. It gets a little cheshbon dik. Says the Gemara. Going back to the dialogue between Rebbe. In other words, we have Poshet Rav Shaila, and now we're going back and analyzing a little better the conversation between Rebbe and Reb Nassim. Whether you learn the Lashon, they will take. They will what? Inherit. A person cannot be makna something that's not in this world. Fellas, who is acquiring this? Children. Which children? That will be born. Who's getting this? Any male children that you will have, they will inherit or they will take. In other words, obviously over here, you're being makna something to someone who is not a havamina. Right now, he's nothing. He doesn't exist. And even according to Meya and Peridam Mafkid, the Amma other makna davar shel ba'olam, who you could, hani mili l'davar sheyeshna ba'olam. That's something that's in this world now. Someone who's in the world. In other words, I go ahead, I have a tree, and I go say the parents of this tree should go to you. You are in the world now. You're in the world now. But these people, in other words, there is no one, even Reb Meir would not hold that it's possible to be makna to someone who's not there. In other words, I can say the following: how can I be makna fruit? It's not in the world. So Reb Meir holds, but the person you're giving it to is in the world, or the tree that's in the world that will bring about the gift, the fruits in the world. But at least there's some physical entity that can be working with Torah's Kinyan. How in the world can you be makna to no one? There is no one here. And even Reb Meir will be moided to that. So then that's the question. How does Kesubas Banim Dichim mechanically work? If in the parish of Kinyanim, you need a recipient, how can it work? There is no recipient. Everybody have to say, Tanai Bezdin. This is a Tanai Bezdin to incentivize the father to give a dowry to his daughter. And therefore, Ela Tanai Bezdin shiny. Hachanami Tanai Bezdin shiny. In other words, the way this works is not stamazai. It doesn't work classic kinyanim. It works mitoris. Rashbam says hefker bezdin hefker. Bezdin has the ability to take money, be mafker, and do what they want with it. So what's Bezdin doing? What are we doing now? We're taking the ksuba and taking control of the ksuba and giving it to who they want to give it to, which is the child that will be born. It doesn't work begedetars kinyanim. It's working with special Tanai Bezdin. So here's the kasha. If it's working with special Tanai Bezdin, why did Rebbe have to say Yasvan, right? Even Yasin would work. In other words, l'chayra the chachamim, you said, Reb Nassim, guys, half you said that this Mishnah is clearly according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka because it uses the lotion of Yarson. Rebbe said Yasvan, and then he changed his mind because of Mishubadim. Comes along a Baya and says comes from a pup and says to a Baya, I don't understand. Why did Rebbe have to answer what he answered? He could have said, the Mishnah comes out L'Kuli Alma. Stick with Yarson. stick with they will inherit. And you're not limited to saying that what? It's either way, whether you said the word Yarsin or you said the word Yasvin, right? It works. The word Tanai Bezdin, and you're not limited to Rabbi Yochanan and Breika. So why did Rebbe go ahead and be protective? On that Amalei, so Abaya said to Rav Papa, Mishum the Kamafik le B'Lashon Yarsin. Now, 1 second. Since it worked either way, the Lashon of Yarsin or Yasvin, why did they use the Lashon of Yarsin? If they would have used the Lashon of Yasvin, it would have gone ahead and taken the question off the agenda. Then it would have been Kuli Alma. It wouldn't have been limited to the Yochanan breakup. The fact that he opted to use the Lashon of Yarsin, therefore Rebbe felt compelled to answer no, Yasvin. Because Yarsin is mashmid only works according to Rabbi Yochanan Broka, but it's not true. Had they used since you could have used either word according to you, because it's Tanai Bezdin, why did they opt to use the Lashon of Yarsin? Why did they opt to use that? So therefore, Rebbe felt inclined that he had to tell him no. Hadam Rabbiya, Lav Milsi the Amri. Rabbi says no. He didn't have to answer Yasmin. He didn't have to answer Yasmin. He could have kept it as Yarsin and it would be okay. Okay, fellas, going back in time, Kuf Chavav. If a person says the Lashon of Yerusha, I want my Yerusha to go to a totally different person. Right? If he says that I want the Yerusha to be this part, but Matana this part. He said once he injected the Lashon of Matana, we're good. Everyone will be minded to that. Okay, so listen to this piece of Torah now. In a Kesuba, there's two parts. There's the Kesuba Banim Dichrin part, and there's Kesuba Banim Nikfin part. A guy wants to ensure that his daughters will be taken care of. And it states in the Kesuba, as long as the daughters are alive and living in the house, they will be given Lashon Matana from the estate to survive. So we view the Kesuba as two parts, a Yerusha part and a Matana part. The Yerusha part is Banim Nikfin, and the Kesuba part is what is a Matana. What's the halacha when what? It's Yerusha and Matana. As long as it's Teich Kedei Dibur, it works. Since this takana was made at the same time, in the Kesuba you're going to write for the boys, and you're going to take care of the girls, and the girls is Lashon of Matana, then Rebbe didn't have to answer Yasman. He could have said Yerusha, because that's not limited to Rabbi Yochanan and Broka. Everyone holds that what? If you use Lashon Matana, it's not Mashta Mashkaza B'Torah, and it could have been according to the Chachamim. So it's by to a question on Rebbe, why Rebbe opted to use the Lashon Mad of Yasvun. He could have kept it as Yarson. I hear the Cheshbon, I'll go through it one more time. It's a very Cheshbon Gemara. Okay, one more time, guys. Soup to nuts. Ksubas Banim Dichrin. Reb Nosson challenges Rebbe. You use the Lashon of Yarson. Who's the only one who holds that? Again, Ksubas Banim Dichrin, you're picking one over the other, right? You're picking, why? How's that working? Yerusha. Says Rebbe, no, you're not limited. It really, don't learn the word. Don't learn the word Yerusha, learn the word Yasvin, they'll take Matana. Says Rebbe, nah, I was trying to escape. That don't work. Because it was Matana, you will be able to collect Ksubas Banim Dichrin from Shubadim, and you can't. You can't. Why? Because he sold it and he only got it after he died. It was sold already. It's not even a b'cheshbon. So Rebbe is questioning himself. Okay, we proved Rav Shaila. Comes along Rav Papa and says to Abaya, what was Rebbe's problem that he had to answer that up? He didn't have to answer up Yasvin. He could have stayed with Yarsin. You know why? The whole thing is a Tanai Bezdin in the first place. The whole thing doesn't work. It's a davish labal. These people are not in the world. No one holds if the recipients in the world, even Rabbi would not hold it's what it's a good gift. It doesn't work. So Mamela, why did Rebbe use the lashon of Yasmin? He could have said Yarsin. It works anyway. Why? Because the whole way this is working is through a din of Hefker Bezdin Hefker, a din of a Tanai Bezdin. If it's a Tanai Bezdin, no matter across the board, it should work. And Rebbe didn't have to use the word what Yasmin. He didn't have to use it, right? So Rebbe, what's the answer? So if you didn't have to use it, then why did Rebbe answer it? Because Rebbe Yochanan, because the Rebbe Nosson Stelzachon, since you could have said Yasmin and you didn't and said Yarsin, it must be only according to it. So he wanted to say no, you could say Yasmin. Comes along the Gemara now, no, still the ask on Rebbe. You still could have said the word, you didn't have to say Yasvin, you could have said Yarsin. If you say Yarsin, it's going to be according to Yochanan Broika. No, it's not, because the latter part of Ksuba says gift. You're going to give to the girls, as long as they're in the house. Good? Everyone's Moida, even the Rabbanon Moida, a Yerusha, Lashon Yerusha, and Lashon Matana works. So Rebbe could have kept Yarsin, he could have kept and you didn't have to say gift. He could have kept Yerusha, and it still would have worked, and it would not be limited to Rabbi Yochanan and Breika. And it's what? It's considered Teichadei Dibur because the Takana was at the same time. So right now we're holding with a question on Rebbe. Continues the Gemara. Let's see it inside. I didn't see it all. Amar Abaya, Lav Milsi the Amri, that Rebbe what couldn't that Rebbe didn't have to answer Yarsin. That none. Like Kosav Law Ban and Nukvin, if you didn't write Ban and Nukvin, females, they have Yilichi Minoi that is me to you. You have in Yasvi Bebesi, they'll sit in my house, be Tazim in Chasai, and they'll be supported by my estate. Aditilochin Legufin until they're taken by a man. Chayiv, be chayiv to write, be chayiv to do it anyway. Why? Shoot Tanai Besdin. Now this is both this type Besdin, both written Ksuba. Vahavi Lezeb Matana, Lezeb Yerusha. And now you have what? The girl's getting it by Matana. There's no Yoresh and Yerusha, guys. It says that over there, what's the Lashon? You have Yasvim v'yitzonei min nechasai ad t'chilachin garmin, and they'll be supporters Lashon Matana. They'll be given it. So it's a case of what? Piece of Matana, piece of Yerusha. The chol lezeb Yerusha lezeb Matana. I feel Rabbanan Maida, even Rabbanan Maida. So why did Rebbe have to say Yasvun? He could have kept it as Yarsun, and still everyone would be Maida over there. Amr the Chuma, the is the Amri, Reb Chanina. Others say by Ben Yumi, was Reb Chanina by Ben Yumi, La Baya on the base. Mimai de Bechad Beidina Iskin. How do you know it was in one Bezdin? It was Iskin. And therefore, it was not considered Toichadei Dibur, and it's not Toichadei Dibur. Therefore, Rebbe would have to go ahead and say Yasvin. Dilma betray Beidina Iskin. In other words, where Akasha was Rebbe did not have to change, and the answer is maybe Rebbe did have to change to answer up why it's not Rabbi Yochanan and Broika, because the whole reason is like the Rabbanan, because simultaneously you have a Matan and Yerusha. Maybe it wasn't simultaneously. Maybe it was in two separate Badi Dinim. If it was two separate Badi Dinim, the first one was Yerusha, and the second was Matana, but it happened at a second time, and therefore the Rebbe is right in answering Yasvan to say that it's not according to Rabbi Yochanan and Broika. So it's not mistaba to say that what it wasn't at the same time. The Tani Reisha, Zeb Medrish Dorish Rabbi Loza ben Azariah Lefnei Chachamim, the Karen B'Yavna. This Medrash, Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai darshin in front of the Chachamim Karen B'Yavna. They sat in lines like a vineyard. Habonim Yershu, the sons inherit. V'habonis Yizonu, and the daughters get sustained. Ma habonim eina yarshim elo la'acher. Just like the sons only inherit after the misa of the father. Okay, so in other words, when are the girls going to get supported from the estate? After the death of the father, just like Yerusha. Now you're making a hekesh between the two. You can tell me the two takonas took place at the same time. The takon of Ban Dichrin of Yerusha, and the takana of Bani Nukvin, Linya Matana, Hainu the Alfina, and takana, you can learn one from the other. It betrayed Beidina Iskin, if you can tell me it took place at two separate times, and therefore Rebbe was right in saying Yasvin, because it would be Mashman Lashon of Yerusha, and only like Rebbe Yochanan and Broka. Heichi Alfina takana. How do you learn one takana from the other one? The fact that you're learning one from the other, it must be they were simultaneously. And if they were simultaneously, then what? Rebbe would not have to go ahead and change the girsa from Yarsun to Yasvan, because even the Chachamim Mamayda, Yerusha, Matana works. Again, and what's the whole question over here we're trying to figure out? Why Rebbe changed the girsa to escape he changed the girsa to make it L'Kuli Alma, that it should not be limited to Yochanan and Broka. The Lashon of Yerusha would be limited to Yochanan and Broka. Says the Gemara now, Rebbe did not have to change. He could have kept the Lashon of Yerusha, because of Yerusha and Matana, even Rabbi Yochanan, even the Chachamim Mamayda works. And obviously, if these two takonas took place at the same time, the boys' part is Lashon Yerusha, girls' part is Lashon Matana. It works. So why did Rebbe have to change the girsa? That's the Gemara's kasha. Says Gemara Mai, what's Shiraya took place simultaneously? It wasn't two beidina. Ubeidina ba'asra tikin ki beidina kama, and the second bezdin was attacking like the first one. Ki hechlei tiksha takanta takanta. In other words, they went in line. That if you're going to tell me that this one is this time, this is this time, they went in line at the same time. That the takana should be the same. So since it was not in the same bezdin, good. If it's not in the same bezdin, guys, let's figure out. So if it's not in the same bezdin, then you don't have the lashon of Yerusha Matana l'kuli alma. You only have the lashon Yerusha, and you have Reb Nassan's tying to that what? That is like Rabbi Yochanan Broka. Therefore, it's necessary for Rebbe to go ahead and change and say the lashon of Yasvun. That was lashon of Matana. That's the cheshbon in the end. So basically, but basically it was a hard Gemara. Basically, if you kept cheshbon, it wasn't so bad. He's one of the Gemaras that I say, oh, that's great, and then I don't feel I don't give it over well. The Gemara basically said the following. We wanted to know, we know Rabbi Yochanan Broka said his din, clearly by what? By Shchiv Meirah, because it says, B'yom Hinchilu, when you're bequeathing, when you're dying. We want to know what the Lashon of Bari is. We paskin from the Lashon of the Mishnah, the fact that, Kubis Ban and Dichrin, you're giving out Tuat, you're giving Yerusha while you're still alive, over one child over another child, so they said Afil Babari. So that was a clear raya. The question was, the Reb Nassan challenged Rebbe that how could you say go according to a Yochanan and Broka by using the lashon of Yerusha? So Rebbe changed the gears to Yasmin to say that it's the lashon of a gift. So therefore, if it's a gift, even the Chacham would be Moida. We challenged why did Rebbe have to go ahead and do that. We concluded that because there was no other way out. That it had inevitably end up to be Rabbi Yochanan and Broka if you could use the lashon of Yarson. Therefore, you had to say Yasmin.